to The Conscious Tide with Ptolomek the Messenger. This week, our special guest is Balance Toe. Welcome, everybody. Today, I have a very, very special guest on the show. He is one of my favorite people in the entire world, one of my mentors, guides, teachers, friends, and just I cherish him with all my heart. He goes by Balance Toe. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, brother. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. So grateful that you can be here. And to start it off, it couldn't be more powerful and amazing. Would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
I'd love to share our traditional information within our tribe. We come from a nation called Ptolomek. We are, according to science, the oldest American Indians to inhabit North America. That's my disclaimer. It is science, wow. And so it's kind of an interesting concept within just the science area. Our name Ptolomek means feather bunch flying to the cosmos beyond the cosmos. And in our tradition, we believe everybody's an angelic being that has come here to Earth to experience the 3D. And so what took place within our tribe, when the Spaniards and the Catholics and the Jesuits and everybody came in within that religious sect, they changed our name from Ptolomek to Picaries in Spanish. And so the Picaries Reservation is located in the area of Taos, New Mexico. And so when you look at Picaries, what it means is just feather bunch. It doesn't mean necessarily feather bunch flying to the cosmos beyond the cosmos. And so what they did is they took away the identity of our people. And so in time, our family left the reservation in the early 1900s. And my seventh generation up grandmother, her name was Ascension Pondo, and she was the one who left the reservation and took the feather and stone medicine that has been in our family within the Rainbow Clan of the Ptolomek tribe, is where I come from. And so we've been on this journey on what they call as a walk-in. I'm sure some of you out there have heard the term walk-in and maybe even considered yourself to be a walk-in. And it's kind of a unique story. I was brought forth on this planet in 1962, and the individual who was supposed to come in was changed his mind, I would say, at that last moment before he took that first breath outside the canal. And so I stepped in at that time. And so when I was born and they laid me upon my mother, I swelled up in the aspect of like a watermelon. I just like swelled up. I had hives. I had all these things that were like just unheard of at that time. And so they pulled me away and they had other doctors look at me. And within a couple hours, my swelling and everything kind of came back to normal. And then when they brought me forth to have breast milk, the breast milk of my mother actually burnt my lips and my throat and almost killed me. And so my grandparents stepped in, my grandmothers at that time, and they said, no, we know what's going on. He's the walk-in. He's the one who's supposed to come in to help fulfill our destiny within our tribe. And so I was given from the age of 5 all the sacred traditions and medicines that were initiated from the beginning of time within the Rainbow Clan of the Ptolomek. And so I'm actually one of the last people that actually have the knowledge within the sacred traditions. And so we share these traditions and we encourage other American Indian tribes to do the same because, again, we have to be an example. We have to be able to understand that, colonialism took place. Get over it. It happened. Let's move forward. Because again, if you hold on to that negative aspect in life, it just creates an influx of negative energy that not only surrounds you, but also can infest you and create illnesses and sicknesses and traumas and addictions and different things of this nature. So that's kind of a roundabout way of who I am and how I came in being, so to speak. But I've enjoyed the journey. I mean, I've seen a lot of changes just in the time frame that I've been here and the changes that are going to be coming real soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers a little bit of your question.
It definitely does. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, I've heard bits and pieces of that story, but that was the fullest version I've heard yet. And it's phenomenal. I'm really grateful that our listeners are going to be able to receive that and feel the impact of it from where you're coming from, be able to actually hear the truth behind our history, specifically yours. When we first met, we were actually at a healing gathering at a festival. You have a very specific form of healing from your ancestral traditions. Is that something you'd like to share with our listeners?
We have two areas that we work with, and the feather medicine is one of our strongest areas that we work in across the United States and even in other countries as we travel. The feather medicine, just like a tuning fork, each individual that's ever been around a tuning fork or even musical instruments, it sets out a vibrational frequency that is either healing or it can cause chaos within the body
Mm.
or around the energy fields of the body. And so the feather medicine that we utilize is similar to a tuning fork, and each bird has a different frequency within their feathers. And so in our tradition, my family used to take a hike, so to speak, from northern New Mexico all the way down into Mexico and South America just to gather feathers and stones. And so we have feathers from all over the world that have been in our family from the beginning of time. And at the same time, we have stones, crystals, medicine, meteorites, teeth, everything you can think of that are frequencies. And so each of those areas are very important. We teach a feather tapping class. It's a 20-hour class. It's a very in-depth class, and we monitor it very strongly because, again, we want to make sure that the people are doing according to the traditional belief, because it's very much a ceremony. And at the same time, there's a lot of people out there who have this sacred ancestral knowledge, not just in the American Indian tradition, but in other traditions as well. It could be the Celts, it could be the Swedes, it could be anybody from the European descent as well, because at one time, the term paganism isn't actually a negative term. It just means that you were outside the box of normal thinking when it came to spiritual beliefs. And so everybody practiced some form of meditation, some form of healing modality within their own tribe. And that's one of the most beautiful things that we teach within our Native American School of Culture, is to continue to hold on to your cultural ancestry knowledge, and to be able to utilize it and share it, and not be all upset that other people want to learn it. I think that's the hardest situation that I run across when I deal with my brothers and sisters of American Indian descent, because there's so much anger and hatred still within a lot of them that it's sad, because what it's doing is it's causing harm to their people. It's causing harm to the vibrational frequencies of love that surround each and every one of us on this planet. And we have to be an example. We have to be able to take a look at our diversity within ourselves and say, you know what? Yes, things did happen. Did the people of today have anything to do with the past? 99.9 of them, probably didn't, even though they might be back in a reincarnated state. They might not have been that person. And so for us just to continue to harbor that anger and that negative aspect towards all these ethnicities of European descent, it has to come to an end. And we have to be able to, utilize the area of forgiveness of ourselves first, because I think we're more angry at ourselves because we didn't take the opportunity to protect ourselves. We didn't understand really what was taking place during that colonialism and things of this nature. And so, once we can go ahead and forgive ourselves, and we're able to love ourselves at a higher frequency within ourselves and do a lot of self-healing, and I think that's really an important thing. It doesn't matter if it's Standing Rock or, the pueblos of New Mexico or the areas of Machu Picchu. I mean, there's things all over this planet that are really a blessing, but at the same time, we're custodians of these blessings, and we're not here just to hold on to them and just nobody's going to have them. You know what I'm saying? We're not here for that.
Mm-hmm.
To open up that wound, because it is a wound, and we're opening it up to heal it, not to shed light on it, just let it move on. We're here to heal that wound, and the only way we can heal it is to share our knowledge. And I think that's one of the most important parts with any ancestral background that we all come from. Doesn't matter what country, what nation, what state, wherever we're from. I mean, we have to have that ability to recognize within ourselves the true aspect of the spirituality that we have and that we carry.
Oh,
Brother.
beautifully said, brother. Yes, indeed. And speaking of Standing Rock, I just wanted to let all the listeners know, when I was leaving Standing Rock, I actually went to Brother Balanced Toe's home with his beautiful partner Carla, and nonstop smiles and laughter the whole time there. Just a beautiful time. So just wanted to mention that and say thank you again, brother.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And again, it's a difficult time that we're in right now. The transition, that people are going through, like I mentioned before, I'm a walk-in. And there's
Mhm.
walk-ins in training, and a walk-in and a walk-in in training is a very spiritual moment within the spiritual identity of the individual as they come through a reincarnated stages. All of us at some point will be given an opportunity to be a walk-in in training. And a walk-in in training is somebody who gets an opportunity to actually step in and receive the hardest and hardest of lessons. And when I say hard lessons, I mean they could be family issues, they could be drug issues, they could be death issues, suicidal issues, they could be any of these aspects. But the point of a walk-in in training is to see our devotion to what we're here to do to help humanity. And so if we follow through on what we said we would, then we move up this vibrational frequency and we're given more responsibility until you become a full walk-in. And so I work with walk-ins all over the world. It doesn't matter where you're from. I have people contacting me all the time. And it's a beautiful thing because we're all the same age in spirit. Understand that.
Mhm.
You know, but we're all different ages of the flesh and soul, because again, those are reincarnated stages in our traditional belief. And so when you look at the human body, on the right side of our body is the male energy. And the male energy consists of the flesh and soul energy, or the 3D, 4D energy. Now, when we looked at the left side, that's our feminine energy, and that's of the spirit and light energy, and that's of the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to as high as you can imagine. And those are the energies that coexist within the human body in this experience here on the 3D, 4D realm. Now, the beautiful part of it is as we progress as humans, and sometimes we might even say as human aliens, because in a way we are, okay?
Absolutely.
And because again, our people believe we're from another cosmos. And so, you know, that's definitely, you know, not a green card cosmo, you know what I'm saying? It's a cosmo from beyond the galaxies. And the beautiful part of that is when we take into consideration all the ancestral knowledge that all the cultures have, there's an overlap. And the biggest overlap there is beyond the cosmos. You know, there's energies from beyond our normal atmosphere or space, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so if you can take that into consideration and really understand that each and every one of you in our tradition is an angelic being, then, you know, I mean, just spread your wings out, just love yourself, allow yourself to become everything and anything that you can determine within your own self. And the hardest part that we have is this male energy. This flesh and soul energy is not a friend of the spirit and light. And I say that. Now, example, those of you who are like, well, I understand we have a flesh and soul. And those of you who understand, yeah, we have a spirit and light as well. There's a big difference. The flesh and soul can only maintain the vibrational frequencies of this planet or the 3D, 4D dimension. Okay, so when you hear the flesh and soul is going to go to the cosmos or the heavens, in our tradition, we don't believe that because it's of the lowest vibration. It's of the earthly vibration. And we're spiritual beings of the highest vibration of source and the collectiveness of consciousness. And so when we have the ability to recognize within ourselves that this energy that we maintain of the flesh and soul, and we keep feeding the flesh and soul energy, keeps us on a low vibration. And so in our tradition, just to kind of give you a synopsis of today's effect, think of the flesh and soul and the male energy as a thumb drive. Think of it as all your information being placed into this thumb drive. And then all of a sudden, you lose that last moment of breath. And before that last moment of breath, it has the ability to plug in to the computer or the spirit and light of the left side, the feminine energy. And because the spirit and light is of the highest vibrational frequency, it can return back to the same vibrational frequency of creator and collectiveness of consciousness.
Mm.
And so it allows that energy to move forward. As it leaves the individual, we are surrounded by our own individual consciousness of white light. Most of you have had an experience of the white light. Some of you haven't. But if you really start understanding the three areas of light that reside within the spiritual force within us, the white light is our own individual consciousness. The blue light is the collective consciousness. Some people might refer to it as the Kizik record. The third area of consciousness is the area of creator consciousness, which is purple light. And so imagine white, blue, and purple lights in a 3D effect, just like a DNA strand. And it's an overlay over the flesh and soul DNA. Now, most of us never get it activated. That's the beautiful part of a walk-in in training or a walk-in, is we help people get activated. Sometimes it pisses people off. Trust me, I've heard a lot over the years, because we're really honest, I mean, if you need to help, to help you, guide you, I'm just going to refer to yourself because you have the knowledge from within. And that, because again, they're looking for the guru or this or that. And again, it isn't that we're any of those. We're of the same identity of spiritual knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I think the beautiful part of it is if we can help you regain the knowledge within yourself just through different areas of feather tapping and releasing past life aggressions or attachments and different things, just through that atmosphere of healing modality, so to speak, along with utilizing the crystal vibrations to help break up the areas of energies that are mutant energies. And there's a lot of mutant energies that are collectiveness within the human body that is transcended from the ages of like early childhood till about 16. And so when you look at your life, up until that age around 16, 17, somewhere in there, your DNA can have a morph strand. And a morph strand is an environmental condition. It can create anything from MS, fibromyalgia, cancer, poor eyesight, anything that is of negative shadow energy or energy of the lower vibration. And so these areas that we're given are energies of knowledge, energies of truth, energies of understanding. But at the same time, we're not here to hold on to them. We're here to be able to release them. And that's why I tell and I express my concern with my fellow brothers and sisters that are American Indian descent, because we have to be an example. That's what we're here for. We're not here to, continue to create chaos and just be angry all the time. Yeah. We're here to be an example. And the knowledge that we're given through our purification ceremonies, some people call them sweats. In our tradition, we call them a purification ceremony. There's all these different areas that are impacting not only individuals, but can also impact society in a positive way. And that's the beautiful part. I mean, when you and I hooked up from the very beginning and we've kind of kept in contact, I've seen a lot of personal growth within yourself and within the people that you're surrounding yourself. There's been a lot of change within, understanding, within love, within devotion, within partnership, within all these areas. And that's the beautiful part, because when you stand back and you really start listening and allowing these people to really follow their heart, because that's where our spirit lives. When we follow our mind of the conscious and our stomach of the gut, so to speak, mm-hmm. Those are the 3D, 4D experience. They're really not here to help. They're here to confuse us. Mm-hmm. But we have to be able to tap into the subconscious where the spirit and the heart work together. Because anything that you've ever gone through that has been too much, it lies in the subconscious, because it's the only area that is healing that can just take it away and move it out of your system. And so a lot of people go through life just filling that subconscious, because again, it's been so heavy, their experience here. And so you're able to open up the subconscious with the heart energy, because that's where your spirit lives. Then you're able to go ahead and forgive. And it doesn't matter if your mom tried to kill your father, your brother did this, your friend did that. Any of these examples are true examples that people go through in hardship as different individuals through a walk-in and training experience. And so we really beat ourselves up at, and we have to be able to understand that we're here to move forward. We're here to forgive. We're here to accept. And I think that's the hardest part, because when we work with one another to accept another person's philosophy or to accept another person's ideal within their spiritual growth teachings is a very difficult thing, because the ego, the male energy, the greed, the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the infidelity, all these areas of within themselves, comes out, and it creates this Taurus effect of just shadow energy that just hangs out. And pretty soon, we have all this chaos in our life. We have all these rotten things happen to us. And I can remember some of the early things, my grandmother would say. And it was amazing because my grandmother, she loved the word fuck. Okay. She loved the word fuck. She did. And she would say, you know what? Fuck it, and I mean, it's, where's somebody who's like, 80 some years old and she's like a sailor, but she would release those energies. And that's a great way of releasing energy, she would say, and so I'm just saying, the people that are out there, don't take offense to other people's, ability to release, because again, each of us have a different way. Yeah. But if we hold it in our throat, then what happens is it can go either in two directions. It can go to our third eye or it can go to our heart. Mm-hmm. And if we hold it in our throat by not speaking our truth, then it puts a block on our spiritual energy of our heart. If it goes to the third eye, then it gives us an opportunity to really see what's really being done, and we can really release what we have to release. And I think it's important to recognize within ourselves the energies that are not only within our chakras. Some say there's 7, some say there's 13, some say there's 33. There's all these energies, okay? And there's pressure points within the body. However, if we never experience the true identity of who we are as angelic beings of spiritual light, we can never release these energies. And it goes back to the area that I mentioned earlier, acceptance. Mm-hmm. We can accept what has happened to us. Then we actually take ownership. Doesn't mean we have to agree with it. Doesn't mean we have to, hope it happens again, okay? It just means we have to accept. Mm-hmm. Because if we accept, we take a little bit and all ownership of that energy, mm-hmm. and then we can release it. Because if we never take acceptance, we can never release it, because there's always a little piece of it that's going to stay with us. And so you have to accept all of it. Grizzly Adams said it best: there's good and bad in all kinds of people. And it's the same with the energies. There's good and bad energies that either come to us, surround us, walk with us, or are part of us, or actually just move away from us, depending on how we hold out our energy. And so I've done a lot of work over the years dealing with the government. And a lot of people say, well, I fight the government. And I'm like, well, one way of putting it, but it isn't so much that I'm fighting the government, it's correcting the government. Because again, if you put a negative aspect towards it, pretty soon you're going to start believing I'm always fighting with the government. And that's not the issue. It's a correcting of the government. And so when you look at tragedy and you look at what's happened here as people, we have to understand on a spiritual level sovereignty. And the spiritual sovereignty that each of us has is, as long as we're not creating harm or injury to somebody else, somebody's property, Mother Earth, or to an animal, we should be able to walk this planet, or any planet for that matter, without any problem, without any government interference. Because again, it's my personal experience. And if you don't like it, you're not on my path. I love you, brother. I love you, sister, but you're not on my path. You're on your path, And if you can wear my size 16 feet or 12, whatever the case may be in your own foot size, and you want to fill them shoes, go for it. But I'll guarantee you, it's still not your path. Mm-hmm. That's something that most people don't understand. And so when you look at the spiritual sovereignty, we have to take into consideration what took place in early United States history. And the United States history is one of the most astonishing histories, because there's so much propaganda and bullshit. There's not a lot of truth. There's a lot of, attaboys and we did this and we did that. But let's talk about it just for a second. 1861 to 1864 is when the United States government first created a corporation status of the human being. In other words, your spiritual identity no longer exists. They made a fictitious identity. It was passed in Congress. Who was president? Abraham Lincoln. Now, most people think Abraham Lincoln was the greatest person on earth because he freed the slaves. Well, let me tell you what he did. He created slavery for the nation because of that. Mm-hmm. And so when he freed the slaves, what he did was he allowed this to take place and transpire across each ethnicity. So each individual is considered a corporation from that time frame on. Each corporation was given the identity of an individual. In other words, now a corporation has a heart. Now a corporation can walk and has arms and legs and can talk and chew bubble gum and whatever the case may be. Okay, which is a bunch of lies. It's propaganda. Let's move it fast forward. 1871, the United States became a full corporation status. USA Inc. Okay, not USA, the constitutional sovereign nation, but USA Inc. Like McDonald's, like Ford, like any of the major Fortune 500 companies. Let's fast forward again. In the early 1900s, we had the Maternity Act that was trying to be passed. They tried to tax women for having children. Wait a minute, women for having children, you're going to tax me? Now, that didn't go over good. So what did they have to do? They had to think of another way to circumvent that whole area of propaganda and fraud put on the individual. So what they did was they came in with Bureau of Vital Statistics. Okay, they came in with the Federal Reserve Act. Okay, taking away the gold and putting on all this, fiat currency and all these other things, and they just started initiating all these things. And all this did was it took the responsibility of the individual as a sovereign being away and gave it to the government. Some people didn't like it, some people did. Now, we as sovereign people have to be able to understand within ourselves that it takes more responsibility to be a sovereign being than it does to be a corporation being. Okay. So as we progress and everything went forward, this is where we're at today. And as you can see, there's a cleaning of the swamp. There's a cleaning of this. There's a lot of political things that some people disagree with, a lot of things people do agree with. There's some things I disagree with. There's some things I do agree with because I understand what's the transition. And again, it isn't who's in office, it's what's done in office. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's the important part. So when we look at what's transpiring and you really start taking into consideration all these aspects, political, religious, all these aspects of what's truly happening, we're on an apex. And the most beautiful part of this apex is the eclipse that's coming. Think about it. August 21st, man, how many are out there going to be at the eclipse, huh? I hope all of you can be out there because the eclipse in our prophecy and in our tradition is an upload-download. Now, that can be kind of confusing, an upload-download. A download that we're going to receive, those people who are awakened are going to receive higher information of vibrational frequencies. In other words, you might even be able to go ahead and hear things that most people can't hear because you're at a further distance. You might be able to have a better visual. You might be able to have interpretive understanding just mentally by focusing on certain things. You're going to be given all this information, those of you who are awakened. Now, those of you who are not, okay, which probably aren't very many people who are on this thing here, I would think, okay, but you might know somebody, all right? But those of you who are not are going to be given an opportunity to be opened, to be able to receive, to accept. And I think that's the hardest part. Once you're able to receive and accept, then you're going to be able to be given that other information, which is going to drive you crazy because once you know the truth, you can't return back to the, to the sheeple, man. You can't be a sheeple no more, You can't be just hanging around and just letting things bother you and, complaining and, manifestation of complaining and all these things. You just look at it and you go, oh, shit, man, it's all good. I don't care what it is, what has happened to you as a brother or sister, what's going on in your life right now. Which wolf do you feed? Mm-hmm. Which side do you feed? Are you going to feed the flesh and soul? You're going to just allow yourself to just, turn into frickin', or are you going to live on the spirit of light, feminine energy, allow yourself to be loved, to give love, to receive love, to be blessed, to be favored, all these things. Words are important. Words are so important. How many of you say every day, I need something? How many people say, I want something? Well, you know what? You're not going to like this, but that's entitlement-based bullshit, okay? That's what it is. It's entitlement-based bullshit. You want to change your words? You'll change what's coming at you. Instead of saying, I want and I guess, on a spiritual side, I desire, okay? I desire. When you desire something, you create a passion. And when you create a passion, you create an action. Okay. So instead of want and need, I desire, and you create action. Okay. Then you get things done because spirit doesn't want to hear about it. Spirit isn't saying, hey, you want this? Well, shit, dude, get up off your butt, get up off the couch, quit going to work, go to work, whatever the case may be. Spirit's saying, you know what? You are a creator. What is a creator, huh? Does anybody know? We can do anything we choose to do if we believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hardship. Most of us can't believe. We can't believe we can accept. We can't believe we can receive. We can't believe we can give. Knowing that it's our last penny. Knowing that if we give that last penny or that last dollar, or that last $5, all of us have gone through it. I know you have. Okay.
Yep.
Oh man, I'm out of my last $20, man. I can't spend it on. Oh man, there's a bum here in the streets, man. I know he wants somebody. I got to walk around him. How many of you done that? A lot of you have. Okay? Some of you might have went up there and gave him that last $20, knowing that, you know what? Who cares? He needs it more than I do. Listen to what I said. Needs. Okay. He's entitlement based. He's asked it. He's accepting. He's taken that. Very, very important. Now, if you give it to somebody and they're like, you know what? That's too much. I can't accept it. There's a difference there. See? He's willing to receive, but he doesn't want to take everything from you. You see what I'm saying? There's a balance of exchange. And I think that's one of the hardest things, especially in our field, being a shaman, being a person of healing modalities. A lot of people just expect everything for free, no money, no exchange, just give it to me. Well, my grandmother would say, fuck that. Okay. There's no way they would be happy with that. Okay. Because there has to be an exchange. If you aren't willing to give something back to that person who's sharing and giving, you're not going to receive it in a manner of respect, a manner that you can really learn something from it. And I think that's the hardest part. Yeah. I'll let you talk now. I'm getting a little dry.
Yeah, it's a great point. And that's something that I, as well as a whole bunch of healers around the globe, have had a hardship with is taking exchange. Because, we so unconditionally fully love brothers and sisters that we want to be able to help them. But there is definitely a need for that proper energy exchange in order for everything to be fully in alignment and just fully resonant, in both parties, and to be able to be almost like a karmic balance in a way, and that's something that is really important. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it isn't so much that they need it. It's a matter of they desire to have some form of an ability to pay their bills, And again, it's an understanding that we all go through. I mean, I've had some crazy experiences in my life. I had 1,000 cars at one time. Yeah, 1,000 cars. I was crazy. I had 8 cars from the early 1900s to 1971. And I had all these crazy cars. And I mean, most of them ran. I enjoyed loving all these cars. And one day Spirit says, you know what, BT, you're freaking out of control, dude. You are freaking losing it. And I want you to sell all your cars. And I was like, no, not my cars. Left them forever. You know what I'm saying? So Spirit said, sell them all. And so I sold them all except for 10. I didn't listen to Spirit. Those 10 got stolen. Check that out.
Wow.
Man. Spirit said, the hell with you and your 10 cars, okay? Because I asked you to sell them all. You didn't listen, okay? Then, after I sold them all, Spirit says, take all that money and spend it till you're penniless and homeless. And I went, what? Penniless and homeless? I don't want to be penniless and homeless. Spirit's like, you got to do this. So I took 10 years and I spent all my money, okay? Then I went homeless and I lived on the streets for 2 years. I lived in the alleys. I ate out garbage cans. I did all these things with people that were truly homeless people most of their life. A lot of vets, a lot of people who had mental disorders, a lot of people who just basically said, like my grandmother said, fuck it, I don't want to deal with society. And I learned a lot from these individuals. I learned how to really comprehend what it is to have nothing. Literally have nothing, okay? Then it came to a point where I learned enough of my lessons through Spirit's guidance, and Spirit said, okay, now you can go back to doing what you do, what you're required to do. Because again, need is of the flesh and soul, which is part of the 3D. What you're required to do to desire is part of the spirit and light. So there's two energies always with each other, okay? So when you're communicating, just kind of put an opportunity within your mind. Which area are you going to be working with? Well, you actually work with both. Okay. So just because you say one thing doesn't mean it's always going to be in a negative aspect, because both fields of energies are some form of a balance at some time within yourself. Now, if you're working them both balancing and you're recognizing them, then you're not on one side and you're not on the other. You're truly in balance. Okay. And that's the most beautiful part when you look at it. As I grew up older, and I started creating more areas, Spirit guided me into more directions. Okay. As a walk-in, we're given some of the most horrific energies of life. Some people go through everything from being abducted, sexual abuse, like I mentioned earlier, addictions, family, domestic issues, single parenthood, all these areas. Those are all lessons. Okay. Most of society harbors those lessons of guilt, shame, and fear and anger, and they never get past it. Never. Okay. It's not because they can't, it's because they choose to hold on to it. And the reason they choose to hold on to it, and this is one of the most important lessons, as each and every one of you people out there can understand, and I hope you get this lesson. When we're given opportunity to heal ourselves, okay, the biggest part of the lesson is to understand within ourselves the path and the direction. Now, the path that we take is either going to be of a spirit and light path, or it's going to be a path of flesh and soul. Once you start feeding the spirit and light path, the flesh and soul no longer is in control. The conscious mind and the gut can't confuse you anymore. In other words, you're truly on a true divine path, no longer a path of 3D, 4D experience. And when the divinity steps in and grabs hold of you, it is the most beautiful feeling any individual could ever experience, because what it does is it allows the individual to see, to hear, to speak, to love, to have that ability to recognize within themselves first and foremost. Because if you can't recognize within yourself, you sure as hell ain't going to recognize it in Joe over here on the street, or over here, sitting next to you. Okay. You have to recognize it within yourself. And if you can recognize that within yourself, that is one of the most forgiving lessons that you can come by. And when I say forgiving, because it's a difficult thing to do. Think of that. We've been so conditioned through education. Oh, you got to go get a freaking job, dude. How many people out there have a job? Well, you know what? Your job is your spiritual identity. Okay. Now, the question with a spiritual identity is, who am I of the flesh identity? Okay. This is where most people make a mistake. And it's not necessarily a mistake that's in a negative aspect. It's a mistake in judgment of a spiritual aspect. When we take the opportunity and we look at our life, we all have a story. Okay. Take yours, for example, Sean. Where was you born?
Los Angeles.
Okay. Where'd you go to school?
Palisades.
Okay. Who was the first girl you kissed?
I don't remember, honestly.
Okay. Who's the last girl you kissed, huh?
Leela, yeah.
Okay, you better remember that. Okay. What song is your favorite song?
Hard one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all part of your story. Okay.
Yeah.
Each of those little aspects, even though you don't really answer right away, it's still part of your story, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. This is the issue. When we go through hardship and chaos and struggles and broken hearts and all these things, that's all part of our story. And we're so in tune with this story that we think, you know what, if we step away from any part of that story, we lose our identity. That's not the case on a spiritual level. When we step aside, we actually increase who we are, because we become what is referred to as the knowing. It's a spiritual knowing. Okay, ego and confidence is of flesh and soul. The knowing is of a spirit and light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your identity changes. Now all of a sudden you're Sean with a new identity, and you remember who you kissed the first time. Okay, but the question is, Does that change who you are? No. It just means now you're elevating yourself to a higher level so you can recall of the subconscious all those areas that have harbored you and stopped you from growing in your path. Now you have the ability to become the knowing and say, fuck you to the ego and all the other aspects within your life. Okay. And that's something that my grandmothers would teach me. Okay. Now, communication is one of the hardest, and I'll kind of slow down on this end here. There's 7 aspects of communication. There's Sean's side of a story and BT's side of a story. They come together. Now, if him and I are having a mutual understanding, then there is no spin within the 2 communications. But if we have a disagreement, which most of society has, it creates what we refer to as a spin. The spin is the gossip, the miscommunication that others are hearing, and pretty soon in the story that BT all of a sudden hate each other and they're mad at each other, and Sean's saying smack about BT smack about Sean. That's all a spin of chaos, and then it comes into the truth. And just because something's true doesn't mean it's a fact, and just because it is a fact doesn't mean it's true. Those are the other aspects. Okay? So we got Sean's story, my story, the spin. Truth isn't a fact. Fact isn't always the truth. Those 2 areas are where we really have to look at within our understanding and communication, because what that brings forth is personal responsibility to communicate. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm not willing to take the time with Sean, even when Sean's like, you know what, dude, I've heard enough. You know what, just go frickin' take your BT big feet out of here. Whatever the case may be, or vice versa. I'm doing the same to Sean. That's not being personal responsible as an individual, as a spiritual being, to say, you know what, brother, let's take a break, but let's come back and reissue this. Let's take a look at this, so I can at least have you understand. Doesn't mean you agree, but at least have you understand where I'm coming from. And if you can do that, then I respect you. Okay. And vice versa. If I could do that for you, then you would respect me. But the problem is, most of us never get to that point because we're so pissed. We're so upset. We're like, next thing you know, we got all the shadow energy, the spin, friends, family, everybody's just like all negative around us. And that's where a lot of people follow within this communication, because misery and company go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. So that's just some of the things that we teach, within our stuff. We're going to have a real beautiful ceremony here on August 21st here in Casper, Wyoming. We're going to have a 50-foot medicine wheel. We're going to have 80-pound rose quartz crystals.
And I've seen these. Oh my gosh.
We're going to have, all these areas of vibrational frequencies. We're going to have a pyramid that has 17 different minerals, from gold and silver to platinum, and all these areas over the center crystal of this medicine wheel, 10-foot pyramid.
Oh my God.
Pure copper, or lorganite, nanolite. We're going to have crystals wrapped around that we're going to be utilizing to help raise funds for our nonprofits, to be able to finish what we're doing up here on Twin Feathers Retreat up on the mountain here, all these things. And so again, it's going to be a beautiful time in history. And I hope each and every one of you, no matter where you're at during this eclipse, take the opportunity to give gratitude for gratitude, because you can do that.
Oh,
brother.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for just pouring out wisdom and love. And I'm just so grateful to be here talking to you face to face and seeing you smile. And it's been an absolute joy.
Well, it's always a joy. And there's a little feather medicine for all you people out there. Okay. Got to send some love and feathers out there, medicine, get them frequencies going, push all that stuff away. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Just remember, when you look over here, do the full moon dance over here, baby. Okay, do the full moon dance on the eclipse, because it's a big one. It's going to be a beautiful time. So just know that you're loved, that you're surrounded with peace and harmony, and that you have friends around you that are able to work with you if you truly open yourself up and allow yourself to set aside the ego, set aside the teachings of the past, and move forward into the future within the present, because it is truly a present. And you're a present too, brother. I want you I love you. You mean the world to us. Carl and I send our love and vibrational frequencies around you all the time. And just know that, you're not alone on this journey. And that goes to each and every one of you out there. You're not alone. Anybody has any questions, you can always check us out. We're on balancedtoe.com. We have Balanced Toe Your Spiritual Awakening on Facebook. We also have Twin Feathers Retreat. If you're ever in Casper, Wyoming, and just like to come out and hang out in the mountains, come talk to us. And then we also do our Native American School of Culture, which deals with the constitutional and treaty laws. So remember, just because the government says you have to do it, doesn't mean it's always right, okay? Step back, take your sovereignty of the flesh and soul, combine it with your sovereignty of the spirit and light, and walk a path of true spirituality, and become balanced once again.
Thank you so much, brother.
All right. We love you, man. Okay. Have a great time. See y'all later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
As we ride the conscious tide of life.